danced in its rays. Such a peaceful, calm picture. I almost finished. All that was left was to wipe it off glass. I was already reaching for a rag when suddenly the phone in my pocket vibrated. The call pulled me out of my memories, made me shudder. On the screen, Marta Igorevna appeared. She answered, trying to make her voice sound cheerfully. Hello, Marta Igorevna. I never called just like that, to chat. Our relationship has always been even, but cool. I respected her as the mother of her husband. She tolerated me as the wife of his son. We observed everything decency, congratulated each other on holidays, but close friends never been. Nastya listened to me attentively. Her voice was not the same as usual, usually bossy, a little creaky. Now he was compressed, tense to the point limit. It was as if she was speaking through her teeth, afraid that someone would hear her. Yes, of course something happened. You have everything in okay? I became alarmed. Maybe something is wrong with Ruben's father? He has heart. Don't interrupt, she snapped. Time is short. Where are you? I'm in the garage. I'm cleaning the car. Ruben will have her tomorrow. Cells, great. There was no lilt in her voice. Shadows of joy, just kind of dry, frightening determination. Listen to my command. Go into the house. Find the sharpest knife, which you have. I froze with a rag in my hand. Knife? For what? Thoughts flashed through my mind, some wild assumptions. Marta Igorevna, I don't understand why you need a knife. I said, don't ask questions. Almost she hissed into the receiver. Just do it. What am I saying? Take the knife and go back to car immediately. I stood there like dug in. It was like some kind of bad dream. Maybe she's not herself? But there was nothing in her voice. There was madness. There was fear and something else, some kind of desperate persistence. Obeying this strange, inexplicable, I followed the order and put the rag down and left garage and like a machine gun went to the kitchen. My hands opened the cutlery drawer by themselves devices. I looked at the knives. Here big for meat, here for bread with. Serrated, but a small one for vegetables with a thin and very sharp blade. I took at his. The cold steel lay unpleasantly in. Palm. The heart was pounding somewhere in throat. What's happening? I'm back in garage, pressing the phone to his ear with his shoulder. I took it, I whispered. Now go to driver's door, she commanded. Open it. You see the driver's license? Seat? I see. My voice trembled. Cut. I was dumbfounded. What? What to cut? Seats, upholstery. Cut, Nastya, cut, deeper. The blood drained from my face. I turned pale. I am this, I felt it physically. Marta Igorevna, are you crazy? For what? Ruben will kill me. He just had it yesterday. I rubbed it with polish. He will see it. The buyer will arrive tomorrow. I looked at smooth, slightly worn leather seat. Ruben loved this car. It was the first car bought with the first serious money. He looked after her like a child. To spoil it was tantamount to spit in his soul. He would do this, never forgave. Let him kill, she shouted into the phone with such fury that I recoiled. Better this way than what will happen later. Do you want to know the truth about his business trips? The truth is there, inside this damn thing's seats. Cut, I tell you, or you will regret this for the rest of your life. Days. And she hung up. I stayed, standing in the deafening silence of the garage, clutching a phone and a knife. In the ears, her last words rang out. The truth about him, business trips, business trips. Ruben was away often. Regional director, meeting conferences, Moscow, Yekaterinburg, sometimes other cities by region. I was always proud of him, his successes. Never for a second doubted him. And now it's my own mother ordered me to disfigure his favorite thing in order to find some truth there. What was it like for me? Call Ruben? Ask, darling, your mom went crazy and told I need to cut the seat in your car. He would have decided that I was making fun of you or that I, along with his mother, who, like him, I thought she was always there for me, unfair. No, you can't call him. I looked at knife in his hand, then on the seat. The fear of Ruben's wrath was fought with icy horror that settled in my call to the mother-in-law's soul, her voice in it. There was so much despair. She wasn't joking and wasn't crazy. She was terrified, and this horror was transmitted to me. I am deep-sighed. My hand was shaking so much that I could not reach the knife. Almost fell out. I forced myself to do it one step, then another. I was standing at the open the car door, closed her eyes, and abruptly, with all her strength, she thrust the tip of the knife into the upholstery. The skin gave way with difficulty, with an unpleasant creaking. I drew the blade down. The result was an ugly, crooked cut. About 10 centimeters. I stopped. It was hard breathing. The heart was beating so hard that it seemed like he could be heard on the street. All. There is no way back. He will see. Will scandal. A terrible scandal. But the words, Marta Igorevna, it's true there. Having collected everything, I clenched my fist and made another cut. Across. Now I could stick my hand inside. I felt something hard, an elastic padding, foam rubber, or something like that. I started to tear it with my hands and pull it out. Yellowish, dusty pieces. Fingers sank deep into the seat. Into it awful. I was digging around there like a surgeon, earlier, without knowing what I was looking for. Money, some jewelry that can be hid in the car seat, and suddenly my fingers hit something hard. Small, rectangular, wrapped in something smooth like plastic. It was shoved very deep, almost to the very frame. My heart skipped a beat. I grabbed the edge and pulled. The subject was presented with difficulty. I pulled harder, tearing the upholstery even more. Finally, it was in my hand. There was a small black waterproof, one zippered case. They sell these on beaches to put your phone. There, and money. I held it in my hand, hesitating. Open. He was light. There was clearly nothing inside. There were gold bars. I caught my breath and slowly pulled the zipper. Inside there was neither a bundle of money nor jewelry. Inside lay neatly folded in four official document, paper with watermarks, signs. My hands were shaking so much that I could barely unfold it. It was birth certificate. I ran, with my eyes on the lines, and the air got stuck in me in the lungs. Surname Titerin. Name Daniel. Patronymic Rubenovich. Date born May 5 years ago. Place birth Kungur City, Perm region. Next came Count Chastikov's mother, Kamila Viktorovna, a name I heard, and then there was Count Father, Titerin Rubin Arkadevich, my husband. World swam around me. Garage walls swayed. I grabbed the car door so as not to fall. This can't be. This is some kind of monstrous, absurd mistake. Error. Maybe a namesake, but patronymic Rubinovich. The name Rubin is not that much frequent. 5 years ago, I was frantically trying. Recall. 5 years ago, Akim turned 5 years. We were preparing for his first for the anniversary. We ordered animators. Cake in the form of a racing car. Rubin just returned from another business trip, brought Akim a huge construction set. He was so loving, so attentive father and husband. And at this time, in some Kungur, another woman was giving birth, another son for him. I looked at document, and the letters were blurry for me before my eyes. My head was spinning. I wanted to fold it back and put it in this cover, sew the seat and do it pretending that nothing happened. Tell Marta, to Igorevna, that I didn't find anything. Live further. But I couldn't. I've already penetrated blood. I mechanically put my hand back, in the case to make sure there is more, there is nothing. And my fingers felt something else, one paper. It was folded and hidden. For a birth certificate. I pulled it out her. This was another official one. Document. Certificate of State Registration of Rights Property. I unfolded it. One-room apartment in the city of Kungur. Address, cadastral number, everything is as it should be. I got to. Count's owner, Rubin Titerin Arkadievich. And then I looked at date. Date of registration of rights property. May 10th, 5 years ago, 5 days after the birth of a boy named Daniel, in that, the very week when he, my husband, returned from that very business trip. I know how long I squatted in a cold garage, clinging to these two. Sheet of paper, a minute, an hour. Time stopped. The smell of gasoline mixed in with the smell of dust from the torn seat. And this stench seemed to have eaten into me right away into the brain. I looked at the ripped chair, to the ugly wound that she herself inflicted, and I understood that it wasn't easy damaged upholstery. This is my life, cut in half. Finally, legs, they became numb to the point of pain, and I got up with difficulty. She moved like a robot on automatic, folded at documents, put them back in the black case. She stuffed the case into her jeans pocket. He lay there like a cold stone, pressed against the thigh. I tried to shove it in pieces of foam rubber back into the seat, cover up the torn edges of the skin, but it's useless. It only got worse. Wound became even more obvious, screaming, spitting on everything. I slammed the door cars, turned off the lights in the garage, and locked it. The key in his hand was icy. At home, I went into the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. My hands were shaking so much that the water splashed on the table. I drank it in one gulp, but the dry mouth did not go away. In my head, there was only one thought that fought like a captured bird. Wait for Reuben and look at him eyes. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Akeem returned, cheerful and excited, talked about his victory in a video game. I forced myself to smile, to hug him, ask if he is hungry. Warmed it up dinner. He was chatting something crazy, and I nodded, looked at him, at his dark, like Rubeno's eyes with familiar dimples on my cheeks, and a wave of nausea choked me. How many more boys like him do they walk on the ground with their eyes? I put Akeem to bed sleep, read him a chapter from his favorite book about dragons. He fell asleep almost immediately, hugging his plastic the dinosaur I found in the car. I kissed him on the forehead and quietly closed his eyes the door to the nursery and sat down to wait in the living room. I didn't turn on the light or the TV. I just sat in a chair in the dark-facing entrance door. There was a black one in the pocket. Case. I took it out and put it down documents on the coffee table. Birth certificate on top. Let this will be the first thing he sees. Hours on the ticking on the wall was deafeningly loud. 9, 10, half past 10. Usually he returned earlier, probably delayed with friends after work or not friends. At this thought, everything inside, again huddled into an icy lump. Finally in at 11, the key turned in the lock. Door opened. Reuben entered. He was in a good mood. Something whistled under his breath. Nastia, why are you sitting in the dark? You save money. Electricity? He asked cheerfully, flicking the switch into the hallway. Bright the light hit my eyes. He entered. Living room, unbuttoning the collar of his shirt, and only then did he see me. His smile slowly slid off my face. He saw mine, facial expression, saw me sitting, no moving in the chair. And then his gaze fell on the coffee table, onto 2 sheets of paper. Papers lying under the lamplight. He froze. I saw him for a moment stop breathing. He slowly walked up to table. His eyes ran over lines. I followed his every movement. I saw how the muscles tensed on his neck as his fists clenched. First the reaction was shock, real, genuine. He looked up at me in something similar to splashing in them panic. Where? Where did you get this? His voice was hoarse. I was silent, just watching on him. Let him speak for himself. Will explain. He looked at it again. Documents, then on me. And here, something incredible happened. Panic disappeared from his eyes. The shock was replaced by something to others. His expression changed. It became infinitely tired and sad. And complete. Pity for me. He sank heavily onto the sofa opposite me, put his elbows on his knees and covered his face. With hands. His shoulders shook. I was sitting like stone, unable to believe it, what I see. He is crying. Sorry, he whispered. He turns a blind eye. Forgive me, Nastia. I should have told you everything from the very beginning. I just didn't want you in this to involve. I wanted to protect you, Joachim, from this dirt. He raised head. The eyes were red and wet. He looked at me with such a pleading expression, such pain that my heart, ready for rage and accusations, trembled. Who? Is it her? I asked. The voice was strange, lifeless. Her name was Camila, he began quietly, looking somewhere on the floor. We weren't close. She was the sister of my old college friend. Friend of Igor Chestiakov. Do you remember me? Told you about him? We are together and we lived in a hostel. He then left for North to work. I vaguely remembered it. Name. Igor, I think Reuben mentioned him a couple of times many years ago. Igor died, Reuben continued, his voice trembling. Accident at the drilling rig. For several years, yes, before all this, he was survived by his younger sister. This, Camila. All alone, a young girl, stupid, got involved with some bad girl company. He spoke and the words flowed out, him in an even, sad stream. He told a story that made my blood ran cold in my veins. The story of the orphan Camille, which, after the death of his brother, rolled down the drain inclined. About how she got pregnant from someone, the scoundrel who abandoned her. About that, how she called him in despair. Reuben, the only person from her brother's past whom she knew. She was on the edge. Nastia threatened that will do something to herself, and the child, she didn't want him. I came to her at this. Kungur, I saw her. She was just shadow. I persuaded her to give birth, promised that I'll help. I listened, and my anger, the icy fury began to melt, giving way place of confusion. The story was terrible, but it happened folding. But why? Why, patronymic Rubinovich? Why your last name? I whispered, pointing to the certificate about birth. He smiled bitterly. And what should I have done? Leave in the column, Father Prosher, so that the boy will be completely life was teased with fatherlessness. He's like a brother to me. I felt responsible. For his sister, for his nephew. I gave the boy his last name and patronymic so that he had at least some kind of shield in this. Life. Camilla didn't mind. Doesn't matter. He stood up, came up to me and fell to his knees. Took my cold ones, hands in your warm ones. And the apartment? I bought a give her this, kennel, so that she doesn't wander around. Corners with the baby, so that Daniel, the boy, had a roof over his head. I transferred her some money every month. This is my entire connection with them. I saw this child only a couple of times in his life when he was just a baby. I did it, for the sake of Igor's memory. I didn't cheat on you, Nastia, never. I love only you and Akim. You are my only family. He pressed his face against my knees. I'm sorry that he was silent. I was a coward. I was afraid that you won't understand. I was afraid of what you would think. Exactly what I thought just now. I wanted this other person's tragedy to lie down a shadow on our family. I'm sorry. I looked at his bowed head, his shaking shoulders, and I almost believed it. I'm so desperate I wanted to believe. It was terrible. Yes, he is. Acted behind my back, spent our money. But the motive was noble. Help an orphan save a child. It looks so much like my Reuben, like that one Reuben whom I married. A man with a big heart who always stood up for the weak. My fingers, they themselves lay on his hair. The anger is gone. All that remains is fatigue and strangeness, a feeling of relief. He is not a traitor. He just too good a person who took on someone else's burden. We should have talked earlier, she said quietly. I, the voice was still weak. Yes, he raised his face to me full of remorse. Yes, it was necessary. It's my fault. In everything guilty. But now you know the truth, and there is nothing more between us, none secrets. He stood up and sat down next to me, on the armrest of the chair, hugged her by the shoulders. I pressed myself against him so dear to a friend. I felt his heartbeat. Hearts. Everything is fine. The world did not collapse, just gave a crack that we can glue. And at that very moment when I was already ready to forgive him, hug him, and to say that we will overcome everything, I have in the phone vibrated in my pocket. I shuddered. Reuben, too. The vibration was quiet, but in the tense silence of the room, she sounded like an alarm. I slowly took it out. Telephone. There was a message on the screen from Marta Igorevna. One short, one offer. Ask him what business trip he was on when I bought an apartment for this orphan. I froze. Reuben looked questioningly. On me. Who's there? Your mother, I answered without taking my eyes off the screen. I read this phrase over and over again. Business trip, apartment, purchase date, 10 May, some kind of vague anxiety stirred in the depths of consciousness. First stood up and walked away from Reuben. What's happened, Nastya? What else did she come up with? An irritated note appeared in his voice. I didn't answer. I went to our office. Reuben followed me. Nastya, what's happening? I approached the writing table, opened the bottom drawer. Therein I kept the old ones in a cardboard box, diaries, notebooks, calendars. I always wrote everything down. The hand found it itself a thick leather-bound notebook with the required number on the cover. 5 years ago. I opened it and leafed through the smelling pages with old paper. January, February, March, April, here it is, May. I found the right week and saw what my wife wrote own hand 5 years ago, clear, in confident handwriting circled in frame. Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. until May 11. One word written in capital letters, Moscow, and below postscript, Reuben, important conference, promotion. I looked at this recording and the ground was slipping out from under my feet. Moscow. He was in Moscow. It was that one, the trip after which he was promoted to regional director. That very one. The trip that provided us with the current comfortable life, our new apartment, a good school for Akim. I came back then so happy, so inspired. He talked about the negotiations, about sleepless nights, about how he broke up all competitors with your project. We celebrated and drank champagne. I was so proud of it, but the date of purchase apartments in Kungur were included in this very week, May 10, Thursday, on that very day when he, according to him, performed with the final presentation in front of all of Moscow. Management. He didn't just buy a secret apartment, he was not in any Moscow. His entire career ladder, the foundation of our well-being, all this was built on a lie. And what about money? Where? He took money for an apartment in that very the week when he supposedly forged our future? This thought burned me with an icy fire. That the trip was not just a business trip, she was something else, complete, a total fake. I slammed it shut, diary. The sound turned out dry and sharp as a shot. I turned around. Reuben stood in the doorway of the office watching me. His face was no longer there repentant. A look of wariness settled on him. He realized that his touching story about the orphan fell apart. What's there? He asked deliberately, calmly. But I saw how the lump on his jaw tensed cheekbone. I silently walked up to him and poked him, with a finger on the entry in the diary. Moscow, conference, promotion. After looked up at him. Inside me there was no more pain or confusion, only cold, transparent ringing ice. Haven't you been to Moscow, Reuben? It wasn't a statement, it was a sentence. He looked at recording, then at me, and I saw how. Something flashed in his eyes. Not fear, no, irritation. It's a shame he was caught doing something so stupid. Error. He didn't make any excuses, began to invent new lies. He's just sighed like a man who was tired. Meaningless talk. Nastya. It was for a long time. What difference does it make now where I was? The main thing is that I did it for us, for families. Yes, I then went to Kungur. I resolved this issue with the apartment and the project. He helped me prepare for the conference arsony. I performed with him later here in our branch. The result is the same. Which, does it matter where and when it happened? He spoke so casually, so simply, as if the conversation was about buying potatoes at the market, as if this monstrous thing didn't exist, many years of lies on which, as it turned out, that our whole life was holding on. I, I looked at him, at this completely a stranger to me, and I understood that some important part just died me. The part that knew how to believe. I need to be alone, I said. The voice was even, without emotion. Forces on there was simply no more screaming or tears left. Nastyusha, well, don't start. He tried to hug me, but I recoiled as if from fire. We are all found out. It's just an old story. She. Doesn't matter. I need to be alone one, I repeated, separating the words. I, I'm going to visit my cousin for a couple of days. Evening. I need to think. Sister Vicher was the first thing that came to mind, just pretext. In fact, it's already in my head. Another plan matured, cold, clear, and scary. I'll go to Kungur. I have to see everything with your own eyes. See this woman, see this boy. Reuben looked at me carefully. He no longer played the role of remorse. He assessed the situation and calculated his moves. Okay, he said finally, unexpectedly, softly. If you need it, go ahead, take a rest, get some fresh air. I understand this is a shock for you. Of course you need to. Time, such sudden compliance, it made me wary. He's too easy, agreed. But Akim, he continued, and his voice became caring. Notes. He has school. A test mathematics on Thursday. Maybe I should tear it from its place. Let it stay with me. I'll take care of everything, no, don't worry. And you go calmly. Take a rest. Everything inside went cold. Leave. Akim is alone with him. At that moment, when I found out that his father is a liar and a traitor, I wanted to scream no, grab, son, and run wherever my eyes look. But I understood that this was impossible. If I make a scene now, I'll take it away, Akima. Reuben won't let me go anywhere. The band, will start to put pressure on us, manipulate. No, I had to be more cunning. I had to maintain the appearance of peace to gain freedom of action. Yes, I forced myself to nod. Yes, you are right. School is important. Let it stay. This just for a couple of days. On his face, a flash of relief. He became again a caring, understanding husband. Here it is right. Everything will be fine, Nastyusha. You'll come back and we'll forget everything like a terrible dream. He kissed me on the forehead. His lips were cold. I didn't answer for a kiss. The next morning was torture. It was necessary to play a role, the role of the wife, who was a little offended, but ready for reconciliation. I made breakfast. Reuben was unnaturally cheerful, joking with Akim, told him some funny stories. Akim didn't notice anything. He laughed and chatted, and I looked at him, and my heart was breaking into pieces. I leave him with this person. When? It's time to say goodbye. I barely held back tears. I hugged him tightly, Akim. He pressed his whole body against me. So warm, so dear. Mom, you'll be back soon. Will you come back? He asked, looking at me. In the eyes. Of course, sunshine. Very soon. I'll call you in the evening. Fine. I will miss you. I will, my dear. Very much. I kissed him on the top of his head, inhaled the scent of his hair. I wanted to absorb it into yourself to have this supply. It lasted for a long time, for all that eternity, which I thought was waiting for me. Reuben stood nearby, putting his hand on Akim's shoulder. Okay, it's time for Mom to go. Wish her a good journey. He was seeing off me to the door. Already in the hallway when I was pulling on my boots, and he said, I would. I took you to the station, but I have an important meeting and can't get out of it. Are you taking a taxi? Yes, I already called. I lied. Okay, call me when you'll get there. He spoke the right words, but in his eyes I didn't see any drops of anxiety, only cold calculation. I ran away stairs without waiting for the elevator. On the street I took a deep breath of the chilly air. Morning air. I didn't call a taxi. I went to the bus stop. It was necessary to gain time and cover their tracks. I didn't know why. Just instinct suggested that you can't trust anyone one of his words, not one of his gestures. At the bus station I bought a ticket not to Oak, or I bought a ticket for the electric train to Kungur. The flight was in an hour and a half. This I had enough time to get to railway station. I was sitting in waiting room, clutching a small travel bag. There was in it only the essentials, replacement clothes, toothbrush, cosmetic bag, and so on. The blackest case with documents. He lay in the inside pocket, burning cold. My heart was beating like crazy. I felt like a criminal, a fugitive. Every minute I turned around, afraid to see something familiar face. But there were only strangers around, indifferent people. Boarding was announced my electric train. I joined the flow passengers, went into the carriage, found her. Seat by the window. The carriage was almost empty. I sat down and pressed her forehead to the cold glass. There was emptiness inside, no fear, no anger, just a dull, aching feeling irreparability. The train started moving, slowly at first with creaking, then faster and faster. For poles and wires flashed past the window, the backyard of the station. The city remained behind. I looked at the disappearing landscapes, and it seemed to me that I was leaving forever. His past life. The electric train was picking up move. We were passing by a long platform where the rare people who saw us off stood, and at that moment, just like that, mechanically, I took one last look at the station. My gaze slid over the faces, figures, and clung to one of them. You massive concrete columns slightly in the shade. There was a man standing. He didn't wave his hand, he didn't. He smiled and just stood there with his hands in his hands. Into the pockets of the coat, and without blinking, looked at my carriage. On my window. This there was Arseny, Reuben's best friend. Blood froze in my veins. I sharply recoiled from the window. My heart sank somewhere down. Arseny, that he is here, does? He should be at work, that very important meeting, because of which Reuben was unable to see me off. I again, this time with apprehension, I looked out the window. He was still standing there. The train kept speeding away further. His figure was becoming more and more. Less, but I still saw him intense gaze. He is not. I saw me off. He followed. And then I did it all understood. Reuben didn't believe me. Not one, my word. All his concern, all his understanding, it was a performance. He is not. He just let me go. He sent his best friend to the station so that I was convinced. Convinced that I really am. I left. That I got on the train and left. City, so that I don't interfere, so that I left him alone with my son. I sat, clutching the armrest, and looked out the window, no longer seeing anything except for the reflection of his pale, frightened face. I was trapped. I gave him the most with my own hands, the most expensive thing I had. And now I was driving into the unknown, and behind me, the trap doors slammed shut. All the way I sat on pins and needles until I got to Kungur. The image of Arseny standing on the platform was going out of my head. Panic has given way with cold, angry determination. Now I am. I knew that I was fighting not just with a cheating husband. I'm fighting the system he built around you, the system of lies in which he, the best friend, plays the role of a supervisor. The thought of Akim remaining in the hands of these people burned me from the inside, makes me act faster. The electric train was crawling, painfully slowly, stopping at every stop. There were trees stretching outside the window, dull Ural landscapes, copses, fields with blackened snow, gray villages. This world seemed alien to me, hostile. My cozy, understandable world collapsed, and now I was in the very center. There is only one of its fragments. Finally, the train arrived in Kungur. I went out to the small one, a platform exposed to all the winds. The town greeted me with dampness and smell, stove smoke. I've never been here. He seemed to me like a decoration for my personal drama. I took it out of my pocket certificate of ownership. Address, Komunarov Street, Building 15. I didn't take a taxi. I walked on foot, asking the road for rare passers-by. I needed to. Time to collect your thoughts. Should I tell this woman, Camila? What do I tell her? Shall I show you? Birth certificate, documents for the apartment, what do I want from it? Here, confirmation of Reuben's lie or the new lie they came up with together. I had no answers. I just walked, driven by a desperate need, see her face, child. The house was found on the outskirts of the old, an area with 5-story Khrushchev-era buildings, gray panel with peeling paint, typical courtyard, playground with rusty swings, benches on which there were old ladies sitting, clotheslines with clothes, stretched between the trees, nothing special. And from this everyday life, it became even more scary. In ones like these, the biggest lies are hidden in the courtyards. Apartment number 23, third floor. I stood up opposite the required entrance, but you can't go in. I decided to do it. What shall I say? Hello, your lover's wife. I feel stupid and humiliated. No, that won't do. I needed to see her first. Opposite the house across, there was a small cafe on the road. Glass walls, coziness. I came inside, ordered tea, which is not I was going to drink, and sat down at a table near. Windows. From here, the courtyard and the required entrance are clearly visible. I turned into observer. I became a shadow spying on someone else's life, which, as it turned out, was mine too. I sat like that, probably about 2 hours. I ordered another one. Tea. Fingers nervously fiddled with the paper napkin, turning it into dust. I looked at the windows of the third floor. It was dark and no one was home. I started to think that all this was in vain, that I arrived in vain. Maybe they moved. Maybe they sold this apartment. And then there is a door, the entrance opened. She appeared on the threshold. Young woman, dark hair, gathered into a ponytail, simple jeans jacket. She was leading the little one by the hand. Boy. He looked to be about 5 years old. They went out into the yard and headed towards the children's room. Sight. My heart stopped and then it started beating with furious force. She stared at their figures. Woman, Camila. She was pretty but some tired with a dull look. And the boy? I squinted, trying to make out his face. He turned around, laughed, ran to the swing, and I saw it. It was a punch in the gut, physical, tangible. I got a sudden ache breath. The boy was a copy, a smaller one, a 5-year-old copy of Reuben. The same dark one's curly hair, same eye shape, same smile, the same dimples on the cheeks that every morning I saw my son, Akim. It was his brother, not any kind of an orphan, nor the son of a dead friend. It was his own blood son. All this, a noble story that Reuben so masterfully told me, crumbled into dust. Only the naked, ugly one remained. Truth. He lived with 2 families. All these years, I sat there unable to look away sight. She was swinging him on the swing. She said something to him and smiled. Ordinary, a mother walking with her son, and I, his legal wife, sat opposite in a cheap cafe and spied on them like a thief. The humiliation was unbearable. I wanted to get up, go over to her, and look at her, in the eyes, but I couldn't. I just sat there, paralyzed by this picture. In your pocket, the phone vibrated. The call woke me up from a stupor. I looked at the screen. Akim's hand trembled. I replied, "Mommy, hi," came the voice on the other end of the line. My son's cheerful, carefree voice. "Hello, darling," I croaked, trying to make my voice sound normal sound. "Where are you? You're already at your aunt, Sveta." "Yes, yes, darling, I got there." "Oh, why is your voice so strange? Are you sick?" "No, everything is fine. Just I'm a little tired from the road." "How are you? How is school?" "Fine. Dad, to me I bought a new game. We'll be in it now. Play. And when will you be back?" This simple childish question struck me stronger than the sight of her husband's mistress. I'll come back, and where? To that house which now seemed alien to me. In that life, which turned out to be fake, I watched, through the glass at my husband's other son, who laughed carefree on the swing. And I was talking on the phone was waiting for me at home. 2 worlds that are not were supposed to cross paths, collided me, tearing me to pieces. "I'll be there soon. Son. In a couple of days, you listen, Dad." "Fine, fine. Mom, Dad is calling. Bye, bye, my dear." He hung up tube. I put the phone down on the table. Feeling disconnected from one's own life was almost physical. I'm here in a strange city, looking at a strange family. My husband and my son is playing far away to the new game that I bought him, Traitor Father. I lost before it even started battles. We need to leave. What am I doing here? I saw everything. I understood everything. Further staying here was pointless self-torture. I threw money on the table for tea, threw on a jacket, and got up. I need to go to the station. I need to go home. Which one? I have to pick him up. What happens next? I didn't know, but I knew one thing. My son must stay with Reuben for a minute longer. I was already heading towards the exit of the cafe, taking a last farewell look at yard. The woman and the boy were still there on the site, and at that moment I saw, as another one slowly enters the yard figure. A woman, elderly, stately, in an elegant coat and hat. She walked, slowly, with dignity, and the closer she came, the more chilled she became blood in my veins. I knew that gait. I knew the silhouette. It was Martha Igorevna, my mother-in-law. I froze on the threshold of the cafe, hiding behind the door, in a shoal. What is she doing here? How the boy, seeing her, shouted joyfully something like a woman, and ran to her towards. Marta Igorevna smiled. She smiled that rare, warm smile, which I saw only a few times in life, and then was addressed only to Akim. She squatted down, and the boy threw himself on her neck. She hugged his. Camilla approached them. They exchanged a few phrases, without hugs, without unnecessary emotions, just like 2 women connected by common circumstances. Then Marta Igorevna handed it to the boy, a small oblong box, covered with dark velvet. I looked at this box, and the world is before your eyes, completely turned black. I recognized her. I recognized her from 1,000, exactly the same box. 10 years ago, first birthday Akim, Marta Igorevna solemnly handed him exactly the same case. Inside lay the family. Value, a small silver spoon engraved with the monogram of their family. She said, "This is for the first grandchild." First tooth? And now she stood in this strange, wretched yard and handed it over exactly the same spoon to another boy, to the second grandson. She didn't just know. She wasn't just aware of it. She was part of it. This second family. My only one ally, a woman who is herself, pushed me on this path which made me cut the seats, turned out to be a traitor. She played on 2 fronts. She supported both me and them. She's not just knew about the existence of this child, she took an active part in his life financial participation, giving him family jewelry. All her help, her desperate call, everything it was part of some monstrous, a game I don't understand. I slipped out. Cafe before they had time to me notice. I didn't run. I walked very quickly, almost checking his steps, swallowing the icy air. I didn't look back. Painting, which I just saw, Martha hugging this boy, velvet the box in her hands was burned into my retina. It was worse than Reuben's betrayal. It was betrayal of the last hope. The woman I thought was on my side turned out to be the main one director of this performance. I got there, to the station, and bought a ticket for the nearest train back to the city. All the way I looked out the dark window, but I didn't see anything. My reflection and her face. Face mother-in-law smiling at someone else's grandson. For what? Why did she call me? Why did you make me cut the seats if was she part of this lie? Was some kind of sophisticated torture trap in, which I obediently stepped towards. Arriving in city, I didn't go home. The thought of meeting with Reuben about the need again, play, lie, smile was unbearable. I knew that Akeem was safe. To Reuben now is not the time for stupidity. He is sure that I and my sister thinks I'm cooling off. He will play the role of the ideal father so as not to cause suspicions. I called him from the station, trying to make the voice sound calm and tired. She said she got to the end of the line, that everything is fine, that I am very tired and I'll go to bed. He responded with concern, wished good night, asked, spoke, am I with Akeem? I said yes. More one lie in our family's piggy bank life. After hanging up the phone, I got into a taxi and she gave the address. Marta Igorevna's address. I didn't know what I would tell her. I didn't have any plan. I was driven only by rage, a hot, all-consuming rage that displaced both pain and fear. She opened the door itself. Seeing me on the threshold, I wasn't surprised. She turned pale. A flash of fear appeared in her eyes. She's everything understood. Come in, she said quietly and stepped back. To the side. I entered her flawlessly clean, smelling of lavender and old furnished apartment. There is nothing here, changed over the years. The same heavy furniture from dark wood, the same lace napkins on polished surfaces, the same. Photographs in massive frames. On one of them, a young, smiling Reuben was hugging me at our wedding. I wanted to rip it off the wall and smash it rattling. I didn't take off my jacket. I walked into the living room and stopped in the middle. Rooms. She came in behind me, tightly closing the door. Have you been to Kungur? This there was no question. I was in Kungur, I confirmed, looking her straight in the eyes. I saw her flinch. I saw you, Marta Igorevna. I saw you with him. With her. I saw a silver spoon. She looked down. She is always straight, the proud back hunched over. She suddenly aged 10 years. She's slow, sank into the chair, as if her legs, they didn't hold it anymore. Nastya, forgive me, she whispered. Forgive. My voice burst into a scream. I couldn't help myself anymore, hold back. Why should I forgive you? For the fact that you called and ruined my life, or for the fact that you have been here all this time new and kept silent, or because you give our family silver to a child? From his mistress. For what exactly, Martha? Igorevna? Tears gushed from my eyes, tears of rage and powerlessness. I stood and shouted at her. She sat huddled in lump and was silent. When I fell silent, she looked up at me, out of breath. In there were tears in their eyes. I learned about everything. 3 years ago, she began in a muffled voice, in a lifeless voice. I saw it by chance, a photo of a boy on his phone. It was so similar that I started asking. At first he denied it, and then later on he denied everything, confessed. She spoke, and in front of me another story was unfolding. The story of a mother who learned the truth about his son, about her shock, about her shame. I wanted to tell you everything right away, she whispered. But I was scared. I was scared for you, for Akim. I was scared scandal. Our family, for our reputation is everything. I naively thought that I could do it influence. I set him some conditions. I must confess everything to you. I myself gave him a year. He swore that he would do it, that he will end the relationship he needs only Akim, only you. She is bitter, she chuckled. I believed. What a fool I was. Year passed, then the second. Nothing changed. He continued to lie to you and to me. And then I found out that woman, Camila, is seriously ill. That boy may be left completely alone. And I don't. I could, but I couldn't abandon the child. I'm not guilty of anything. He is my grandson, the same as Akim, she cried. No hiding, smearing tears across wrinkled cheeks. I started going there secretly. She brought him things, toys, some money. Reuben was of little help. Them, I knew. I didn't do this for her. I did this for the boy out of shame for his son. I hope that he will come to his senses and his conscience will awaken. But he only became worse, more impudent, more cynical. I listened to her, and my rage began to give way to something else. Strange, bitter pity. She was as much a victim of his lies as I was. She just fell into this trap earlier. And then, she continued, wiping tears, I found out that he was going to selling a car, and I realized that it was my last chance. I knew he was hid the documents there. He somehow let it slip that this is the most reliable place. I realized that if not now, then never, that I can no longer be an accomplice to his lies. I had to give you a weapon. I had to make sure you find out everything yourself because you wouldn't listen to my words. I believed it. He would turn everything inside out, would have made me look like an old senile woman who interferes in my business. She stood up, came up to me, looked at me, eyes firmly, decisively. Nastia, I'm on your side. Now it's final and irrevocably. He crossed the line. Theo, what he did is not just treason, it is crime. I'll help you prove it, I swear. I looked at her and didn't know whether to believe her or not. No. But there was so much in her voice, sincere repentance and anger, that I felt that this time she wasn't lying. So that you believe me, I will tell you something else, she said, her face distorted with rage again. Secret, which is even darker than its second family. The apartment he bought her in Kungur, she paused, typing in, chest of air. He told me that I had to go into debt to buy it her. He said that he took out a loan and asked, I need help. I then gave him all of mine saving. But it was a lie. She approached the old man, chest of drawers, pulled out a drawer and took it out, yellowed paper. She came back and she handed it to me. It was old bank statement. He lied to me about credit. Her voice trembled with suppressed emotion, anger. He didn't borrow any money. He stole them. I took the extract. It was Ruben's bank statement, dated 5 years earlier. I ran my eyes through line by line, and one of them make me freeze. Large money transfer. The amount, down to the last kopeck, matches the market price, the cost of a one-room apartment in Kungur at that time. Purpose of payment, down payment for an apartment, agreement. And then the date. Date of this, the translation was on April 28th, 5 years ago. On. The day after I sold, I remembered my late parents' dacha this day in the smallest details. I received money in cash, a whole bag. I brought them home. Ruben and I were sitting in the kitchen and made plans. We decided that let's put them into our common account for the future. A kima for our future. Next day, Ruben said that he would go to bank and put the money so that I don't have to lug around such a sum of money. I gave it to him bag without any receipts. I trusted you to my husband. The blood drained from my faces. He didn't just take our common money, he took my money. Everything that I have, everything left from my mom and dad, it's all mine inheritance. He didn't spend a penny of it, their own. He bought his mistress's apartment with the money from the sale of my house parents. It wasn't just a scam, it was. There was a desecration. He trampled the memory of the people dearest to me, to build on these ruins his second false life. All the feelings I had before this, pain, resentment, rage, merged into one, cold, sharp as a blade knife, desire to act. Game of. The offended wife is over. It has begun war, and now I knew what I was fighting for. Not just for his dishonored honor. I'm fighting for the memory of my parents, for the future of his son, for every ruble, which was stolen from me. I spent the night at Marta Yurevna's. We didn't sleep. We sat in the kitchen until dawn. She told me everything she knew, everything she managed to find out in these 3 years. Every detail, every word of it, were new nails in the coffin of my past life. I didn't cry anymore. I listened, remembered, put the pieces together. This monstrous mosaic. By morning there was a clear plan in my head. I need lawyer, I said, when outside the window. A gray dawn broke. Marta Igorevna nodded. I have a good, very smart one, family matters. I'll call him straight away. Now. She kept her word. Already at 10 in the morning, I was sitting in a small strict in the office opposite Sedovlasov, a serious man. His name was Igor Semenovich. I laid it all out in front of him, birth certificate, document on, apartment, bank statement, which Marta gave it to me. I told everything that I found out, without emotions, dry, like interrogation. He listened very carefully, not interrupting, only occasionally making notes in my notebook. When I finished, he was silent for a long time, tapping his pen on table. The situation is difficult, he said, finally. To prove that for the purchase, it was your money that went into the apartment's sales of the dacha will be practically impossible. It was a long time ago. There was money in cash. He can always say that it was his personal savings. My heart sank. That is, nothing can be done. I do this, didn't say. He raised a stern glare at me. Sight. But you must understand, your husband the enemy is serious. He acts brazenly but thoughtfully, and he will defend himself until the last one. Your main task now is protect yourself and your child immediately. What do you mean? I mean finances. Do you have any common accounts, savings? Yes, I nodded. We have a joint account. We were saving up for a new car for college. To Akim. There must be a decent amount there. The key word is general, Igor emphasized. Semenovich. This means that he has the same access as you. And judging by his actions, he will not stop at anything before what? He already felt threatened. Your trip, even under the pretext of visiting for his sister, it was an alarm bell. He will act proactively, therefore. Listen to me carefully. The first thing is you must do it right now, know while putting it off, go to the bank and withdraw from. Exactly half the bill, not a penny more, and immediately transfer these money to a new account opened only on your name. This will be your financial rear, your safety net for the time being, while the investigation is ongoing. Do you understand me? His words were like a snake from cold water. I was thinking about morality side of the case, about justice, about retribution, and he was talking about money. But I understood that he was right. In this war without, I have no money, defenseless, powerless. Yes, I understand, I said firmly. I left his office with a feeling that wings grew from my back. I have a plan emerged. I have an ally. I was no longer alone. I called to Reuben, another lie. She said that I'm coming back for my sister's tomorrow morning, and planned. He was alone again, courtesy. He asked how I had rested. He said that he and Akim are on the same page as me. Missed you. His voice made me sick, but I held on. And Kim was at school. There was time. I went to our department, bank, in the same place where Reuben and I are. We once opened this account together. They knew me by sight here. Smiling, the girl, the operator, said hello to me. I would like to withdraw money from. Bills, I said, trying to the voice did not tremble. Of course, Anastasia Pavlovna, please come to the manager. The amount is large. This is done through it. I was escorted to separate office. There was a man sitting at the table, a respectable man in an expensive suit. The one that shook hands with us 5 years ago with a Reuben of the hand and congratulated on the profitable contribution. Anastasia Pavlovna, kind day. How can I help? I sat down on the chair opposite him. Hello, I would like withdraw half the amount from our joint account. Of course, none problems. Your passport, please. I handed him her passport. He's something I typed on the keyboard, then took application form for cash withdrawal and pushed it towards me. Please fill in, please indicate the amount here. My hands are a little trembled when I entered the numbers. Some was really big. On these with the money we could live with Akim almost. Year, without denying yourself anything. She signed the form and handed it to him. He took it and looked at the screen again. Your computer. Smile slowly slid off his face. He frowned. I typed something again and looked at me with bewilderment. 1 minute, please, he said, and picked up the intercom. He spoke quietly, almost in a whisper. But I made out the words. Counting the lost. Check it out, transaction. Error. I was sitting and it was icy. A premonition squeezed my throat. Something it wasn't like that. Finally, he hung up. He looked at me for a long time, and in his there was awkwardness and sympathy in his gaze. Anastasia Pavlovna, he began, carefully. I'm afraid I have to tell you to upset. There is not enough money in your account funds to carry out this operation. I didn't understand how it wasn't enough. There can't be enough. We haven't filmed anything for 6 months. The point is, Tom, he cleared his throat, avoiding looking at me, in the eyes that there is nothing at all in your account funds. The balance is 0. I looked at him and couldn't believe her ears. Null. This can't be. This some kind of mistake. Please check again. I've already checked, he said quietly. Errors no. An operation was performed yesterday morning to transfer the entire amount, absolutely the entire amount, down to the last penny. Where? I whispered. My lips wouldn't obey me. He looked at the monitor again. The entire amount was transferred to a new bank account. Private entrepreneur Reuben Titarin Arkadievich. I was sitting on a chair, clutching the armrests. The world around me narrowed to a screen monitor on which I knew now my sentence has been written. This I barely managed to squeeze the words out of myself. He opened it yesterday. The manager nodded. Yes, your husband came yesterday morning. Personally, he opened a new account for himself. Business and transferred all funds to it from your total family contribution. Yesterday in the morning, that very morning when I sat down, on the electric train to Kungur, at that very morning when his friend Arseny stood on platform and saw me off with an unblinking gaze, it dawned on me. He wasn't just one step ahead. I calculated everything. He realized that I was something. I'm planning. And while I was traveling to Kungur to find proof of his betrayal, he struck. Preventive crushing blow. He didn't just cut me off from our common money. He left me with nothing, with and without several thousand in your wallet. The slightest idea how to live on. He didn't just rob me, he robbed me, financially destroyed me. The shock slowly gave way. Rage. Not with that hysterical rage that I was in my mother-in-law's apartment. No, it was a different kind of rage. Cold, collected, angry. He thinks that this is him. What will stop me is that I'll be scared. I'll crawl on my knees and beg for forgiveness. He doesn't know me well. He has not took one into account. When a mother is taken away lastly, she turns into a wolf. I didn't go to Marta Gorevna. I went home, to our apartment, to my lair. I was supposed to meet him there. I have to. I had to look him in the eyes and say all I think about him. I took out a black case from my bag documents. Birth certificate, document for the apartment. Banking extract. This was my weapon. Let him will now try to tell his story about the orphan. I opened the door to my key. The light was on in the hallway. I heard voices from the living room. Men's, women's, laughter. I frowned. Who is this? He was not waiting for me alone. I took off my shoes and walked into the room and froze on the threshold. On our sofa, in our armchairs, sat they. Ruben, next to him is Arseny. Opposite their wives are Larissa and Sveta, our best friends. The family we were with, we spent all the holidays together, went to vacation. People who knew us for 15 years. They all fell silent at once when they saw me. There was a strange expression on their faces, a mixture. Awkwardness, curiosity, and pity. Akim was not with them. His room was locked. I heard the quiet sounds of a video game from there. Ruben stood up to meet me. On his, there was a mask of sorrow and sympathy on his face. Nastenka, you're back, he said, quietly, as if afraid to scare me away. We were waiting for you, we were worried. He came up to hug me, but I moved away. I looked at him, then, on our friends. What's going on here? I asked in an icy tone. Sit down, darling, he said softly. We need talk, all together. I didn't sit down. I remained standing, clutching her bag in her hand where the documents lay. I don't want any. Who to speak with? I want to talk to you alone. Nastia, this concerns all of us, Arseny said with a heavy sigh. We are the same. Friends, we can't stay inside when this happens in your family. He didn't finish, looking down meaningfully. Sight. Larissa, his wife, according to... She nodded and looked at me with such compassion, as if I were mortal. Sick. What is this? I asked. I feel how everything inside is starting to boil. Ruben stepped forward. He got it. Phone from pocket. Nastia, I didn't mean to do this, he told his in a mournful, velvety voice, in which endless care shone through. But you leave me no choice. I'm worried about you. We are all worried. He turned the phone screen towards me, and I saw a photo. I was on it. In our garage, I stood over a ripped car seat. I had a knife in my hand. The light fell in such a way that my face was distorted by a grimace of anger, almost madness. The eyes sparkled wildly. I was like crazy, caught in the moment, destruction. I was speechless. I looked at this photo and couldn't understand where she comes from. Was he following? Me? He was there. I found you like this state on Saturday, Ruben continued, addressing no longer me but ours, to friends who listened to him with bated breath. I arrived home and she was gone. I started looking, went into the garage and saw this. She was cutting the seat with a knife and something muttered under